So let's say Taiwan wanted to create a reserve tomorrow. How will you hold Bitcoin? Are there custodians, and are they scaled up? Are they audited? Are they secure? What exactly is the mechanism to hold it? Actually, I think Taiwan was on the receiving end of that too. I think Trump said, 要收保护费. You got to pay for the protection. So things can change very quickly in the world. We've seen that with Venezuela, now Iran. Things happen now. And in a world where things are changing, relationships are changing, the counterparty risk is changing, you need to have an asset without counterparty risk, and that is Bitcoin.
You predicted that Bitcoin will hit $1 million by the end of 2025.
My new prediction is 1.33 million by end of 2026.
Because?
Do you want to buy Bitcoin in 2030 for $1 million, or do you want to buy it in 2026 for 68,000?
Every model says it's going to go to $1 million. Why aren't people just buying Bitcoin at a discount now?
This is an unprecedented time where you have a down market or bear market, and you have a massive accumulator that's going full speed ahead with buying Bitcoin. And he's not stopping. So if you go back to my 2024 prediction of why I thought Bitcoin was going to hit $1 million, it was because Bitcoin is 5.5 times more scarce than silver. And I think Bitcoin has the potential to at least do a 5x because it's more scarce. But 10x is not out of the question, and that would put us to $1 million.
Bitcoin and gold has kind of like lost its correlation. People are asking if the digital gold narrative is still alive.
We're moving into a world that is more uncertain. Can you keep dollars forever and trade with dollars forever? This question mark.
How does the transition going to happen? How does that work?
Nobody knows, but it's going to be sudden. So I think how it plays out is Bitcoin starts to go parabolic. It goes up to 200,000. And then people start to FOMO in because suddenly they're interested again.
Okay.
Then it goes up to 500. And then you see countries starting to get into it. And then that sends us up to $1 million. And I think there will be a time where the fiat pricing of things doesn't match. So you will be able to buy a house for, I don't know, 100,000 Satoshis or something like that.
Tell us about gold candle and omega candle.
A God candle is a 10K candle on the daily. It's actually happened. We've had 10K days in the past. Omega candle is a 100K candle in one day. It's only a matter of time before you see Bitcoin go up 100,000 in a day. And it could be from 150 to 200,000, or it could be from 200,000 to 500,000 in 3 days.
Got the whole crypto world going wild. Money blockchain, she's the queen of the game. Stacking crypto like it's her claim to fame. If you want success, then take a look away.
Joining me today is Samson Mow. He is the CEO of Gen3, one of our most popular guests. He works on Bitcoin adoption worldwide and just really encouraging nations to adopt Bitcoin strategy. Welcome to Taipei.
Thanks, Bonnie. Great to be back.
What's in Taipei? What's new? What brought you back?
Lots of things. I think Taiwan is one of the interesting places in the world that could potentially adopt Bitcoin relatively quickly. And there is definitely a need for Bitcoin and at the strategic and national level here. And we work closely with JC Ko. He's a friend of mine, and we're trying to move things forward in the legislature.
You said Taiwan has this unique characteristics. What is it?
Well, I think Taiwan is very forward-thinking in general and is more agile in general than other countries, many other countries. And there's a close proximity to the US, much like Japan. And I think given everything that's happened in the US, I believe the lawmakers and the government in Taiwan should be looking closely at that to learn from it and possibly emulate. So creating a strategic reserve and pushing forward-thinking policy, de minimis tax exemptions, encouraging people and businesses to adopt Bitcoin and opening up the market to Bitcoin ETFs, companies like Strategy, that kind of corporate structure for Bitcoin accumulation. And also at a national level, it's important for national defense for many, many reasons. And we can talk more about that. But everything says Taiwan should adopt Bitcoin.
Talking about nation adopting Bitcoin, last time you were here, it was 2024, and we're talking about U.S. and the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It happened, but the price didn't really move.
Well, they didn't buy. So the strategic reserve, it has mixed reviews in the Bitcoin ecosystem and community. Some people think it's a nothing burger. Like, yeah, they just did it to placate people and make us all happy. But it actually did create the reserve, and technically, government agencies cannot sell their Bitcoin now. And even more importantly, they separated the crypto into a crypto stockpile, which can be sold to buy Bitcoin. And overall, the entire structure allows for budget-neutral Bitcoin accumulation too. While they haven't done anything, at least they're not selling, and the government agencies can't go rogue and sell Bitcoin. Like, in Germany, one of the states sold all of their Bitcoin. But at least there is this kind of structure in place that paves the way for more Bitcoin adoption. And it is good legislature. I think in Taiwan, they're looking to do something similar, in other places too. But it's just kind of setting the tone of what the government should be doing, which is holding the Bitcoin. And then you have other avenues like the Bitcoin Act. Cynthia Lummis tabled that to accumulate 1 million Bitcoin. And that's not budget neutral. So I think even though nothing has really happened, it is still leaps and bounds ahead of many other countries, especially given the fact that the US is in many ways a Bitcoin superpower. If you look at it, the bulk of ETFs are in the US. The bulk of custodians of Bitcoin are in the US. The bulk of corporate treasury holdings of Bitcoin is in the US. And I think the US is still the largest holder of Bitcoin. Maybe China, maybe the US, just from seized proceeds of crime and whatnot. So the US is really a Bitcoin superpower, even if they did nothing else. But they're actively working on legislation and new ways to adopt Bitcoin at a bigger scale.
Are they really?
I think so. At least it is one of the countries where they're trying to do things, right? So they passed the Genius Act. The Clarity Act is, in various states of discussion right now, being blocked by Coinbase. But overall, the U.S. is open for business. And I think it's far more advanced. And they have the infrastructure in place for when they need to adopt it at a national level. And this is why, for us at Jan 3, it's when we go to approach governments, we kind of say, you have a lot to do to catch up, right? So let's say Taiwan wanted to create a reserve tomorrow. How will you hold the Bitcoin? Are there custodians, and are they scaled up? Are they audited? Are they secure? What exactly is the mechanism to hold it? I don't even think that Taiwan public companies can really hold Bitcoin easily right now without some workarounds. So there's a lot of steps to go through before you can open the floodgates to a large accumulation.
So when you advise these people in the government, lawmakers, do you lay out the step-by-steps?
We generally give a broad outline. Like, you should have a national system for custodians in the country. I think Japan is starting to have that now. I think they have one at Crypto Garage. And at a nation level, I'm not sure you would want to use custodian. You could. But I think it'd be better to have some, cold storage system for the government separately from that is not a normal corporate custodian, and that does not exist yet.
Should people be allowed to check the balance? And
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's just like the question of how much gold is in Fort Knox right now. When the Trump administration came to power, one of the things that was promised was an audit of Fort Knox. And that hasn't happened. We don't know if there is even gold in Fort Knox. But I think as a country, you want to show, here's my address, here's the Bitcoin that we hold. And the public can verify, because those are public funds, right? It makes sense to do that.
I think people are interested in the game theory because there is this FOMO element in it. So once, the argument was once U.S. started buying, well, they're not buying yet, but once U.S. started this plan, other countries will be like, you know what, we can't miss out. Everyone's going to start doing it. But are they really doing it?
No one's really doing it yet, but all the dominoes are sort of lining up. So you even have central banks now that are buying, like the Czech central bank, I think, has bought. Another Eastern European central bank has bought. I can't remember the name right now, but they are starting to accumulate Bitcoin at a nation level, if not in a strategic reserve or something.
But I guess the main question for these countries are, why do we need to hold Bitcoin?
That's a good question. And I think people will figure out, again, the problem is a lot of people misunderstand how money works. So Bitcoin is viewed as a risk asset or a tech stock. That's why we track. So when all the software companies were crashing because AI is going to replace every software company, Bitcoin came down with it. Very weird correlation. But people think Bitcoin is just a piece of software. But Bitcoin is actually a transformation of money. It's closer to gold, but it's better than gold because you can teleport it and memorize it. So it changes the entire paradigm. The way the world works right now is counterparty risk is everywhere. So for people that don't know, counterparty risk means you have to rely on another party to transfer something. In terms of gold, you can have gold as a bearer asset with no counterparty risk because you can have a physical gold coin. But that is not scalable. At a nation state level, you have, Taiwan has 424 tons of gold. You can't just take that with you easily. And a lot of countries store gold elsewhere, like Venezuela kept their gold with the Bank of England. And then famously, the Bank of England said, you can't have it back when they said, we want our gold back, right? And even I think many European countries, Germany included, store gold with the US. So there's counterparty risk with gold, which is, before Bitcoin, the hardest asset we had. And then you have the traditional financial system. And if you look at what happened to Russia, they were effectively debanked as a country and kicked off of SWIFT. And assets were frozen. And treasuries were frozen too. They owned a bunch of US treasuries. And now, as a country, you have to ask yourself, is that an acceptable risk? Taiwan also has treasuries too. And if you remember, I think it was last year, many countries suddenly were no longer friends with the US. Even Canada, where I'm from, we were suddenly, persona non grata. And, we're talking about annexing Canada as the 51st state. There was talk about grabbing Greenland and other things too. So I think people have grown up in a world that has been largely stable and largely very amicable and largely very friendly. Actually, I think Taiwan was on the receiving end of that too. I think Trump said, 要收保护费. You got to pay for the protection.
Yeah.
So things can change very quickly in the world. And we've seen that with Venezuela and now Iran. Things happen now. And in a world where things are changing, relationships are changing, the counterparty risk is changing, you need to have an asset without counterparty risk, and that is Bitcoin. And eventually people will come to that same conclusion, but it's difficult because Bitcoin is so revolutionary that people can't really wrap their heads around it. Because if they did, they would be buying Bitcoin and they'd be listening to podcasts and hanging on to Michael Saylor's every single word, but they're not. So this is the current state of the world we're in. People don't understand it yet, but they will, because money is a necessity. In a conflict, let's say you want to defend your borders from an aggressor. You want to buy oil. Let's say you wanted to buy oil from Russia. Do they want NTD?
Not anymore.
Probably not. Are you going to give them US dollars? How are you going to give them US dollars, and where are they going to keep the US dollars? Because US dollars, they don't really exist at scale outside of the US financial system, right? Maybe a stable coin, but those are centralized and can be frozen too. So let's say in a conflict, you have no more allies that want NTD or USD. You need a neutral currency that you can pay and get oil, or drones, or aircraft, or anti-aircraft missiles, right? You need to have a money that you can spend freely and anywhere in the world to anybody.
I think people fail to understand what Bitcoin really is, and they're looking at the fiat price. Something really interesting that I observe, our last interview was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I still have people commenting under that video today asking me to have you back
Okay.
because they're like, what happened to his price prediction?
Yeah.
You predicted that Bitcoin will hit $1 million by the end of 2025.
My new prediction is 1.33 million by end of 2026.
Because?
It's overdue. So the thing is, people get angry when I make predictions. Like, how come you're wrong? Like, if I was right with every prediction, then I would be a trillionaire. I'd be richer than Elon Musk. But the thing is, it's a prediction, and it is for fun, and it is also to outline an interesting phenomenon, which is I'm going to be right eventually. If you look at every single price prediction model, stock to flow, power law, we have one at Jan 3, we call it Omega 60. Saylor has a model called Bitcoin 24. They all converge in the area of 2030, 2031, maybe 2032 of Bitcoin hitting $1 million. So every single model says that. And the world is largely asleep at the wheel still. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand the scarcity of Bitcoin. They don't understand what Bitcoin is. But let's say they did, and let's say the models are right. Wouldn't you want to front run that? Like, rationally, do you want to buy Bitcoin in 2030 for $1 million? Or do you want to buy it in 2026 for 68,000?
如果想要投资不同的标的呢，其中一个可以研究的是 Mitrade 这个价差合约的投资平台，它拥有全球的4大监管机构牌照。那你不是在交易资产的本身，而是在交易价格的变动。它的商品种类很多啊，股票啊、外汇、加密货币指数，还有大宗商品 ETF 都可以交易。它支援信用卡还有 USDT 直接出入金，不用先换成美金再转账。交易本身呢，免佣金，点差偏低，杠杆最高可以开到200倍。当然，杠杆千万小心使用。账户预设有最高100万美元的保险保障，是保险公司来承保。那详细的资讯呢，都在平台上面。在 Mitrade 上面可以做多做空双向交易，那涨跌就都有机会获利。交易的门槛呢，$5就可以开始交易。那它内置的这个 Trading View 指标免费使用，平台里面呢还有非常多的资讯新闻啊，还有交易的策略可以参考。它也是阿根廷足球队的官方赞助商，2025年获得了像是欧洲的最可靠经纪商，还有最佳数字客户体验这种金融类别奖项的肯定。现在呢，我们频道有一个专属的活动，从这一支影片的资讯栏加入，最高可以领到$1300的交易赠金，赚到了可以提领，赔了由平台吸收。想要尝试操作的话呢，可以无痛练习，连结在资讯栏。
But I think what is hard for people to understand is, well, every model says it's going to go to $1 million. Now, why aren't people just buying Bitcoin at a discount now? Institutions know, or I get it. Retail investors, they only have, I don't know, $100K, $1 million sitting at the bank. They kind of have to like be smart about it. But what about the really wealthy people?
They are.
Yeah.
Look at Saylor. Right? He's hitting the ATM. He's monetizing STRC, their stretch product, and they're buying nonstop. This is an unprecedented time where you have a down market or bear market, and you have a massive accumulator that's going full speed ahead with buying Bitcoin. And he's not stopping, right? This has never happened in the past before. So if you go back to my 2024 prediction of why I thought Bitcoin was going to hit $1 million, it was because of the ETFs. Every other bull run in Bitcoin history has always been disrupted or muted because exchanges were overwhelmed. I used to run an exchange too. When the price goes parabolic and people are suddenly interested in Bitcoin, you cannot onboard and KYC people fast enough. But the ETFs removed that. And it also removed the barrier to institutional adoption. So that was why I thought we would hit 1 million very quickly. Now that didn't happen, but it is very, very positive, and it is playing out to hit 1 million. So if you look at the BlackRock ETF, IBIT, it is their most successful ETF product to date on a number of metrics: profitability, revenue generation, speed to grow to 50 some odd billion dollars, right? The rate and scale of institutional adoption piling in is just, it should have sent Bitcoin flying upwards, but it hasn't. And I think people are always wondering why it hasn't not gone parabolic. And I think it's a number of reasons. There's no one particular reason. One is people are short on cash. they're poorer now because of inflation and everything. It's not widely accepted that inflation is double digits, but I think real inflation is somewhere in double digits, if not 20%, if you depending on what you're looking at. But the other reason is also uncertainty, like all the conflict happening. And the last one is it's just people are investing in other things like AI and whatnot. So they're taking capital that would have gone into Bitcoin and investing in Nvidia or other things like that. So, there's a fourth one, which is probably more on the Bitcoin/crypto side, which is the people that believe in the 4-year cycle. They think 2025 was the peak, and now it's just down. And of course, they're selling because that's what they anticipate. So there's like all these little factors that are playing into price suppression. But definitely there's a lot of factors that are keeping Bitcoin down. But the thing you have to understand is there's not an unlimited supply of Bitcoin. If you look at stock to flow as a metric, Bitcoin is 5 times or 5.5 times more scarce than silver. And I think Bitcoin has the potential to at least do a 5x because it's more scarce. But 10x is not out of the question, and that would put us to 1 million. Yeah, like Bitcoin has taken a beating for the last 6-7 months, right? It's been 6-7 months of down. But I think it'll reverse. And usually when it reverses, it'll just reverse violently to the upside because of the supply shock. But we've never had a market like this. Like people, specifically crypto traders, like to say, well, it's really dumb, but they like to say it's going to repeat the past and we're going to have 80% drawdown. Not really. I think we've hit the bottom, and strategy buying, people like to say, oh, it doesn't do anything to the market. He's buying and it's not even moving it. But what it is setting a floor. Like he is buying aggressively at the bottoms. And you also have, basically it's packaging the strategy too now. So you can't really short strategy below 1 mNAV. It's kind of dangerous to do that. I think people realize it. So there's kind of like a double bottom. There's a Bitcoin bottom and then there's a strategy bottom, simply because of the size of strategy. So I think both things will factor into Bitcoin having a supply shock where there's just no more coins. And you have more big treasury companies that will be buying soon, like Adam Back, I think you had him on. BSTR is likely going to de-SPAC in the next 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. And they have $1.5 billion of capital to deploy into Bitcoin. And at 67,000, he's getting close to $10,000 below Saylor's average price, which is now 75,000 because he's been averaging down. So I think it's just too good to be true that Adam is going to de-SPAC and buy $1.5 billion of Bitcoin for 10K cheaper than Saylor. Because that has repercussions for the next 10 years, right? That means BSTR will be averaging, their average cost will stay lower and they'll be averaging up more gradually. Whereas if Bitcoin recovers to 80K, Saylor's averaging up again, not down.
Now I'm wondering if it's safe to preach people or tell people it is always a good idea to buy Bitcoin at any price.
It is always a good thing to buy Bitcoin at any price.
Explain to me why.
Well, if you just ignore all the financial engineering with strategy and everything like that, you can't really time the market and say Bitcoin is going to go up or down. You don't know.
Right.
So you always want to be deploying into the market because you know for a fact that in 10 years, Bitcoin will be much higher than it is now because it is the scarce asset and it is replacing gold. So you just have to be in the market. Like there's a saying, time in the market is more important than timing the market, And even if you don't believe that Bitcoin is good, then you should just put your money in STRC and let Saylor buy the Bitcoin. And he'll keep the 20 to 50% upside and he'll give you 11%.
For people that are not familiar with that product, can you briefly explain what it is?
Yeah, so STRC is it's basically a fixed income product. It's basically Saylor stripping out the volatility of Bitcoin. Basically, he'll pay you 11%. You give him money, he'll take that and buy Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin goes up 30%, he gets the 20% gain on it. So it's like a beautiful kind of arbitrage between those that are risk averse or don't understand Bitcoin and those that understand Bitcoin. Because it is a brilliant instrument, it's stripping out the volatility and giving people a stable income, and they don't need to buy Bitcoin. And those that believe and understand Bitcoin will buy Bitcoin. And in many ways, this is similar, possibly inspired by the Bitcoin bond that I designed for El Salvador, which was not on a monthly scale, but the idea was you buy the bond, you get a yield, which is covered by investing half of the bond capital into mining. But then after a 5-year period, you recoup the principal. So if you invest $100,000 in it, you know that in 10 years, it's a 10-year bond, you get back your 100,000. But after the 5-year mark, you get an increased Bitcoin yield on top of the base coupon. So in year 7, 8, 9, maybe your yield is 30, 40, 50%, or 90%, which is pretty cool, right?
What are you working on right now?
Lots of stuff.
What is the most exciting one?
I don't want to say yet, but it has to do with consumer adoption of Bitcoin. But at the nation state level, we're engaged with a few countries and on the topic of a Bitcoin bond.
What would it look like?
The Bitcoin bond?
Yeah.
It's like STRC, but instead of monthly, it's annual dividend.
And it's nation issuing it.
It's instead of corporate debt or
Right.
A preferred share, it's sovereign debt.
Oh.
So it's at a new level.
Is there a point where this institutional adoption is bad for Bitcoin?
Well, you can say that. And there is criticism that there's concentration risk, right? Like Strategy has 760 some odd thousand now. And then BlackRock has 750 something thousand Bitcoin now. So there are people that say that's like not great. It's too concentrated. But BlackRock is buying on behalf of their clients, right? Just like any other ETF. And Saylor, he has conviction, right?
What is bad about this?
Well, the idea is that, what if Saylor decides to sell one day and dumps it on
I
the
see.
market, right? Or it's just he has outsized influence on the market because he has so much Bitcoin, right? And it's one entity. But there's really no way around it, right? Like, if Bitcoin is valuable, everyone will want Bitcoin. And that's what we're seeing. Countries will want Bitcoin. Companies will want Bitcoin. Institutions will want Bitcoin. It's just a natural extension, just like who wants gold? There's really nothing you can do except for complain about it because it's capitalism. If you want to get it, go and get it. Nothing is stopping you from buying more Bitcoin than Saylor. I think in a world where Bitcoin is replacing the entire monetary system, it's going to absorb gold. It's going to demonetize all those precious metals. It's going to absorb real estate. It's going to absorb a lot of things. There is no limit to how big Bitcoin can get. So it's everything divided by 21 million, right? So yes, Strategy has a big chunk of it, but overall, Bitcoin is going to grow from 1 point something trillion to 100 trillion. And there's enough Bitcoin for everyone, even though everyone may not have one Bitcoin, but one Bitcoin can be divided up into 100 million Satoshis. So everyone will have a good number of Satoshis. But that's the nature of wealth. It will concentrate somehow. But the good thing about Bitcoin is anybody can hold Bitcoin. And Saylor has even said this too. He said, not everyone can have Manhattan real estate, right? But anyone, even some guy in Africa or Argentina, can buy Bitcoin. There's nothing stopping them other than their own biases or ignorance. But they can buy Bitcoin, just like Saylor can buy Bitcoin.
Earlier, we were talking about gold. So Bitcoin and gold has kind of like lost its correlation. And people are asking if the digital gold narrative is still alive.
Gold had a run, and I think it was largely driven by central banks buying it. And, it's normal. Central banks are centralized. They want central assets that they control. Like China bought a lot of gold. Also, some European countries, I think Poland bought a lot of gold too. And I think that largely drove the gold rally, right? But that doesn't really change anything because gold is still not very portable. You can have paper gold, or you can have small amounts of physical gold. And people don't really understand that there is a large drop off when you have when you sell gold. It's easy to buy it, hard to sell it. You might sell it at generously a 10% discount.
Explain that.
Because when people buy it, they have to verify the gold, right? So there's a cost to that. But generally, gold is meant for selling, not for buying back, right? You can, I don't know about Taiwan, but in the US, you can buy gold at Costco.
Yeah.
You can't sell gold at Costco. Right?
True.
So the distribution chains all exist to sell gold, not to buy it back. So a lot of dealers will give you a haircut. Like, okay, you want to sell your gold. What's the market price? You get 10% lower, 20%, 30%. And a lot of shipping companies actually won't take gold because of the risk too. And there are many Bitcoiners that I know that originated from being gold bugs. And they learned the hard way. Like they had a good chunk of gold and they wanted to sell it. And they took a haircut and it was very hard to sell. That's not the case with Bitcoin. So this is why gold is not as good as Bitcoin. It's like defective Bitcoin. Bitcoin's everything gold wanted to be, but couldn't be. But yeah, gold rallied very hard, and I think Bitcoin didn't rally. And I think the time will come when Bitcoin does rally, because everything has rallied except for Bitcoin. S&P's rallied, gold, silver has rallied, oil has rallied. Bitcoin has not rallied, and it's overdue for the rally.
Do you think Bitcoin is going to replace the monetary system, or have you updated your prediction on what would happen in the world?
I think it has to replace the monetary system.
It has to.
It has to, because the monetary system is broken. Like the U.S. is now 39 trillion in debt. I think when we met a couple of years back, it was 34 or 35. But 39 trillion is astronomical. And most countries have a large amount of debt. And there's no way out of it. Like Japan is another country that we're very interested in for nation state adoption. That's why we focus our efforts there, because it has the highest debt to GDP ratio, right? Something has to give there too. But Japan is a wholly different beast. They've been financing the world basically through cheap yen. And that seems to be coming to an end. But everything in the fiat system seems to be coming in an end. You could say it's pessimistic, but I think it's just things have to reconcile eventually. You cannot keep printing money and increasing the debt forever. And
My question is, it has been working, and yes, it's bad, but why can't it just continue? Yeah, the numbers are huge already. It can be even bigger. So what to everyday people?
I think Japan, the Bank of Japan, is now buying most of their own debt back, right? So you can see the whatever you want to call it, the game of musical chairs is ending, right? Nobody wants to buy it, right? People are moving to hard assets, and that's why gold rallied. At least part of the reason why gold rallied, because you can say it could go on forever, and theoretically, yeah, it can keep printing forever, but eventually it loses some meaning. But more importantly, you're seeing fractures in the system. We're moving into a world that is more uncertain. Like, can you keep dollars forever and trade with dollars forever? It's this question mark.
How does the transition going to happen? Is it, because I'm trying to picture, okay, we're using fiat money, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, this is not sustainable, and let's add Bitcoin into this picture. How does that work?
Nobody knows, but it's going to be sudden. So I think how it plays out is Bitcoin starts to go parabolic. It goes up to 200,000. And then people start to FOMO in because suddenly they're interested again.
Okay.
Then it goes up to 500. And then you see countries starting to get into it because, oh, guess what? We need Bitcoin now. And then that sends us up to 1 million. And I think there will be a time where the fiat pricing of things doesn't match. So you will be able to buy a house for, 100,000 Satoshis or something like that. It's going to be a really, really weird thing. But eventually what people will do is reprice things in Satoshis instead of in fiat currency, right? Because fiat currency is meaningless.
Okay, this chart, shows that Google trend of interest in Bitcoin. 2017, it was at 100. That's the peak. 2021, it was at 63. This cycle's peak, 2025 October, it was at 37. And right now, we're about to head into April of 2026. We're at 27, 28. Pretty terrible.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it matters.
Really?
Because Bitcoin is not something for the masses yet. If it was for the masses, then we wouldn't be at these levels of price.
Yeah.
Right? We'd be at millions right now. And it's also similar. Like you have the fear and greed indicator, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the prediction markets saying Bitcoin is, there's a chance Bitcoin is going to go down.
Oh, yeah,
right?
I saw that.
But all of these things are sentiment. And sentiment, you know the normal distribution, right? There's the high IQ and the low IQ and the mid curve. Sentiment is basically the mid curve. It's like what the normal person thinks.
But isn't that where the money is at? Like that's the majority of money.
No, that's where the debt is. Like if you look at the normal person, they're in debt, right?
Okay.
So sentiment is a mid-curve emission. It's just like the barometer of the average person's fear and or interest in Bitcoin or lack of interest in Bitcoin. It is not the first principle thinkers, right? Again, you should look at Warren Buffett. You know, he's not the mid-curve. He's the opposite. You know, we can say either he's on this side or that side, but he's not the mid-curve for certain, right? So he's the one that's greedy when others are fearful.
Oh, that was very dangerous. Oh my God. Tell me more about Warren Buffett because he does not like Bitcoin.
Well, if Warren Buffett was our age, I think he would like Bitcoin. But there's a certain point in time at which you can't understand something that's so drastically different. You either dismiss it outright or you cannot grasp the core concepts behind it. But I think if Warren Buffett was our age, he would be all in on Bitcoin because it is disruptive and it is a powerful tech. And if you look at the boomers, like they believe strongly in real estate because that was what they knew growing up and that's what benefited them. They bought a house for $1,000 and now it's worth millions of dollars. So they believe in what benefited them in the past or what was transformative for them in the past, right? And the irony is real estate only boomed because it was a new safe haven after the gold standard was abandoned, right? So in many ways, if the gold standard wasn't abandoned, they would all the real estate boomers would be gold bugs. We're in such an interesting phase of the world where anything can happen, right? Like, you know, oil can go up here and now it's back down and it's probably going to go back up again. Gold was up here and now it's back down. Silver was up here and now it's back down. Bitcoin is here and then it's going to go up again, right? So it's just a massive amount of uncertainty in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to get more certain in the next few years. You know, definitely things are changing very rapidly. But again, going back to the very beginning of our conversation, Bitcoin is the only asset with no counterparty risk. And you have to understand that. And if you don't understand it, try to understand it because it's really important to understand that.
Tell us about Gold Candle and Omega Candle.
A God Candle is a 10K candle on the daily. And it's actually happened. We've had 10K days in the past. And Omega Candle is a 100K candle in one day. And we haven't had it yet on the US dollar charts, but we've had it in a few other places. I think Iran had a Omega Candle, Lebanon has it, Egypt has it in their currencies. But it just goes to show like the world is very turbulent right now. And it's only a matter of time before you see Bitcoin go up 100,000 in a day. And it could be from 150 to 200,000, or it could be from 200,000 to 500,000 in 3 days. Right? That's the level of volatility you should be expecting now. If you go back and look at the chart of the German mark against gold in World War II, the chart is like this over a 1 year period, up and down. I think that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing massive volatility. And the cool thing is the volatility to the downside is muted because we have corporations buying as a buyer of last resort right now. So the only thing is up now, volatility to the upside, which will shock and awe people. And they'll show that, hey, we were right.
Yeah, I think in one of your interviews you said we have nowhere to go but up or something along the line.
Well, there's nowhere to go. If you understand everything, where do you store your money, right? You want to buy real estate and get a Dubai happening where you're stuck, right? real estate is highly illiquid. Even if you tokenize it, it's still like highly illiquid because the base asset is physical on the ground, stuck in the ground. You could buy gold, but again, it's not that liquid unless it's paper gold, but then it's paper gold and it's an IOU. Same for any other metal. You could buy a stock, but a stock is a wrapper for a company with management and with problems, and it can be replaced, just as we saw software companies getting replaced by general AI. And you could say, well, what about investing in NVIDIA or something like that, or whatever? But there's always something new, right? But a permissionless store of value that is bearer and immutable cannot be replaced. That is it. That's the apex predator of money. Does not get any better than that.
You have a prediction that says in 2026, Elon Musk is going to come back to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Well, we know that he knows about Bitcoin. We know that he knows crypto because he likes Dogecoin. And what prompted that was his friends, like the All In podcast guys. They're mostly in California. And if you remember a few months back, California was slated to put through a wealth tax, and everyone was leaving. Or actually, a lot of people have left California, like
Right.
billionaires. And Elon runs in that same circle, right? So if they're understanding that their stuff is targeted, that their wealth is being targeted, they have to come to the conclusion that I need wealth stored in something that cannot be seized. And that's really Bitcoin. So Elon has to understand Bitcoin eventually.
I talked to people behind Zcash, and yes, okay, maybe you can correct their narrative. Why do you think Bitcoin has privacy if we can see every transaction on chain?
Bitcoin is not private, but it is pseudonymous. But what's more likely is I'll pay you with Lightning or with Liquid, and then you can't see because those are private. It's a Bitcoin sidechain, and Lightning is a layer 2 micropayments network, and you cannot see any of that stuff. So that's false right out of the bag. But let's say you value privacy. You want to buy crypto from an exchange, and you don't want anyone to know about it. Guess what? The exchange knows, and they're reporting it to the tax authority. So you gain nothing.
So all the problems that people are trying to solve for Bitcoin.
There are no problems that Bitcoin doesn't solve. There are manufactured problems that people say that Bitcoin has.
Like what?
I don't know, anything. Pick any altcoin. Like what Ethereum says that Bitcoin is not programmable. Bitcoin is programmable. You know, there's nothing much to defend because it's a false thing. But that's what they base their entire value proposition and identity off of. Something that they say Bitcoin is deficient in when it's not.
So you don't see a world where there will be another thing that is similar and that has more consensus?
No, because you can only create digital scarcity once. Everything else is a copy of it, right? Like if you try to make a Bitcoin today, you won't be able to launch it organically like Bitcoin. And then you don't have the network effects, right? But still, like it won't work. It'll be centralized.
Going back to your earlier prediction, you said $1.3 million by this year.
Yeah.
Why 1.3?
Just to increase the number a bit.
You can't stay the same. It has to go up.
I think we're long overdue for a big move up.
What has to happen for that to happen?
Just time.
Time.
Everyone is accumulating a massive amount of Bitcoin, right? Sailor has 760,000 something now, right? I don't think there's that much Bitcoin out there that he can keep buying without the price coming up. And the structure of STRC lets him buy without any dilution. So it's a very powerful instrument. And then you have Adam's company, BSTR, coming. So just imagine 4 or 5 companies all doing this. It's going to go up. And then BlackRock. And now Morgan Stanley wants to compete with BlackRock. Then you throw a country or two into the mix. This is not enough Bitcoin, and you'll have a supply shock.
Is there a scenario where it doesn't happen? Like Bitcoin is just stuck at this level and
No, because it's scarce, right? Like, I think this is the greatest trick that the market is playing on people, that there's so much Bitcoin that it's always going to be low. But that's just not true. Bitcoin is so scarce that people can't fathom how scarce it is. There's only 21 million units of this. And again, this is like something that the masses don't understand, the concept of a finite asset. They're familiar with assets that are kind of scarce, but the total number is unknown, right? You don't know how much gold there is. You don't know how much silver there is. You have estimates. You don't know how much oil there is, but you think oil is scarce. You know, it's going to run out eventually because there's only so many dinosaurs that died. So, you know, they kind of have a vague concept of scarcity, but they don't understand absolute scarcity, which is what Bitcoin is. And when you hit that limit, when there is no free float on the exchanges, when the traders that are, you know, using Bitcoin as this kind of free floating asset to, you know, market make or provide liquidity to the market, when that dries up, then Bitcoin will just run.
why would that dry up? Because if it's so volatile, then it's an interesting thing to trade.
Because there's only 21 million Bitcoin.
But they're trading the derivatives. They're not.
I think there's both. Derivatives definitely will damp it or amplify it, but they need spot Bitcoin. So that we know there are 2 to 3 million BTC on exchanges, kind of as this free float. And that free float will be eroded. It's just a question of when.
So right now there's 1 to 2 million
2 to 3 million, depending
Okay.
on who you ask, on exchange.
worldwide.
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not a lot.
We have 1 million left
To mine.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah. So reality is going to reconcile eventually, and then price will go up because of that scarcity.
Are you still buying?
I don't know. If I had money, sure.
But you think retail investors should buy?
I think anybody that wants a future should buy Bitcoin.
If you talk about people accumulating as many Bitcoin as you can, what's the end game? So let's say, I don't know, I have enough, but I still don't feel rich because I can't really sell it because the strategy is don't sell it, right? So I can't really enjoy my life now.
I don't think it's true that you should never sell. Like, life is finite. Time is finite for people. So you need to live your life. So this is the purpose of Bitcoin. It is not that you should buy it and never sell it. That's like, it's more of a slogan, right? You never sell your Bitcoin. And strategy can do that because it's a corporation. But at an individual level, you know, it's not like you will never sell your house. Eventually, you might sell your house, or you might want to, you know, mortgage it or do something with it. There's a lot of things you can do with it, right? And I think what you want is you want that hard asset that you can use when you need to use it. Bitcoin is just a tool. It's a very good tool, but you should use it because it's money. What you should think about is it's something you can pass on to future generations that does not degrade, right? If you buy property, you know, you have to repair it and maintain it. You don't know what's going to happen to it in 100 years for your kids. But Bitcoin is digital. There's no physical form to it. You know, it's still going to be Bitcoin in 100 years.
Okay, all these hardship that we're enduring to buy Bitcoin, and then what, right? I think people want to know the then what.
Well, I think that you have to soften it a bit. So like I said, never sell your Bitcoin is a nice thing to say. It's a slogan.
Right.
But a better question is what do you want to spend your Bitcoin on?
Right.
Now that you have such a valuable asset, you have to really question, like, what am I really doing with it? Am I selling it to buy a car? Do I need the car? Or am I selling it to buy, I don't know, some plastic thing that's going to melt, right? Or am I selling it for a life experience to go somewhere and see something I really want to see? So it's really that you have this pristine asset that is generational and is likely going to appreciate massively. It really forces you to think carefully about what you're going to spend, which is not something that happens right now. In fact, like I said, people don't have savings. They're in debt. Most people are in debt in the world. possibly less so in Asia, but more in the US. But they're spending their future money because they want instant gratification and instant reward in this fiat world. And Bitcoin is the exact opposite of that. And you have to question, what I'm doing today, is it worth it? And that's only a question you yourself can answer.
You reminded me of something. So there are a few times when I talk about Bitcoin and I have comments saying that, oh, don't listen to her, she's just pumping her bag. And I'm just flattered because if you think I can pump Bitcoin, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I assume people would say the same thing about you talking about Bitcoin.
I haven't heard that, but I'm sure maybe I haven't seen it. The Bitcoin is the only thing where it doesn't matter if you pump your bag or not, because it is sort of preordained where Bitcoin is going, and Bitcoin is the best asset too. So it's like, do I really need to pump my bag? It kind of sells itself. Mm-hmm. Whereas everything else, they do need to pump their bags. They need a marketing team. Like, this is one of the big differentiators from Bitcoin and Ethereum, which was Ethereum launched with a 30-person marketing team. I don't think people know that. But if you go back in time and you look at their pitch, like the World Computer, it's all slick branding and graphics. And they trademark their logo. It's all a very well-packaged thing to sell to somebody. But every altcoin is, it was made to be sold to get Bitcoin.
But would you say these tokens have utility, or these chains?
No.
No?
Any utility can be replicated, and you actually see this. Like Solana, you can say it's a better Ethereum. It's faster, more performant, newer technology.
Would you say it's useful?
It's useful as a transport layer for things, but in and of itself, it's not useful. But a transport layer could be anything, right? It could also be a centralized database. And just like, Solana is better than Ethereum, there will be a better thing than Solana in the future. And then a couple of years later, a better one of that. So these are not things you store value in. They're just, it's like transient technology.
So they're in different categories.
Because they're not money.
Mm-hmm. But they could be tech stocks.
Yeah, kind of. That's a very generous, positive way to frame it. Yeah.
How would you frame it?
I don't know. A copy, a clone, Temu Bitcoin.
Of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
But Bitcoin's not trying to do all that.
No, it's not. Like, Bitcoin has second layer technology that can do all that. Like, Taproot assets can do that transport layer. RGB can do that. All the Bitcoin related technologies, Liquid can do that. It can all be done without a token. It's just people think you need a token to do something.
I want to go back to the policy. You mentioned Clarity Act, but I think it's so chaotic, people don't know what's going on. Does that have any effect on Bitcoin and Bitcoin price?
People think it does. They think when the Clarity Act passes, then Bitcoin's going to go up.
Yeah.
But I don't really think it has that big of an impact. It has more to do with banking and stablecoins than anything else. Like the stablecoin yield, that's the sticking point right now.
But I guess everything leads to Bitcoin. So if that is good for crypto, then it's good for Bitcoin. Then
not really. I think crypto can go to zero and Bitcoin will be fine. It's a different ball game.
But would you want that to happen? Because that would be dangerous for Bitcoin, because the public will see that as, cryptocurrency.
I mean, cryptocurrency does more damage to Bitcoin, I think, than anything else. Like, a lot of these drawdowns that we've seen are because of things like crypto blowups, like Terra Luna. Mm-hmm. That had an impact on Bitcoin price. Mm-hmm. FTX, FTT token as collateral. Something that came from zero went to zero. That impacted Bitcoin massively, and it changed the perception of Bitcoin too. Because I remember we were engaging with countries and talking about Bitcoin, and then that blew up, and then nobody wanted to talk anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So in theory, yes. In practice, it's already bad for Bitcoin, right? Scams, fraud, all of it is bad. Bitcoin has to survive on its own merit without dependency on any derivative.
For a person that's starting today, let's say he's or she is new to Bitcoin, What's the first step?
I would say get a little bit of Bitcoin. You can use Aqua. Have a friend that has Bitcoin send you a Lightning transaction for a couple Satoshis, and just experience it for yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. People can't really fathom that you can just receive money with no intermediary, because you've been born into and grew up in a world where you have to ask for permission to use money from somebody, counterparty, some group, your bank, Venmo, PayPal. I don't know what's popular in Taiwan, but somebody's giving you permission to transact. And with Bitcoin, it just removes that barrier. The better way to think about a Bitcoin wallet is it's like a notebook. You open up your notebook, someone can write a number on your notebook, and that's it. It's your notebook.
Why are you doing what you do? Because it's open source. People can download it.
Well,
how do you... Where's the catch? People are like, how do you make money?
Well, Aqua makes money when you do a swap. If you're swapping from Bitcoin to a stable coin, or from Liquid to Lightning. But the reason why we're doing this is because we think onboarding the world to Bitcoin is the most important thing right now.
I do think this is a very good time to learn about Bitcoin, especially when you're not affected by all these FOMO and news headlines and stuff.
But with Lightning, you can send, 100 Satoshis, a couple cents. And, I don't think it's people, like, if you have a Bitcoin friend, they'll be happy to send you a few Satoshis. They're not going to send you one Bitcoin, but they'll send you a few Satoshis.
Anything else you would like to say to, let's say, a young viewer just starting off?
Understand what it means to think from first principles, not just from wealth creation and money, but for everything in life. Because that is the only way that you can really achieve success. If you do what everyone else does, you will be average. If you do what the media tells you to do, or you invest based off of some guy recommending investments, you're going to end up, average. You have to think, what is meaningful? What are the things happening in the world today? And extrapolate from that for yourself. And there's no other way around it. It's hard work. You have to put in the work and research, right? Like, one thing I think people should be worrying about, and maybe they are, is what happens to your work in the future with AI. And I think the answer is Bitcoin, right? If you have an asset, you can leverage the asset. You can borrow against it, right? If there's no more work, if work becomes a commodity because a computer can do it, then what value do you bring? So you need to accumulate an asset now, right? If you go back to the boomer age, what is the asset? You have the productive asset of real estate. I can buy a house, not the one I'm living in, and I can rent out that house, right? And I get some income. Well, with Bitcoin, you can also use it too, right? You can borrow against it. You can sell options. You can do all sorts of things with it. But you have to think, if the world is moving away from work being valuable, then there's no more valuable skill than having an asset. It's not a skill, but it's like a important thing now. Not that you know how to do something, but you have an asset.
Talking about this, there's this narrative that says Bitcoin is not built for humans, it's for AI.
I'm pretty sure it's for humans.
It's not because, AI agents, do transactions in very micro amount and a lot of...
That doesn't matter. You can say Bitcoin is for AIs, but the reason for that is because it's permissionless. The AI is not going to get a credit card, right? The AI is going to use your credit card. You're going to set up a credit card account, because AIs don't get credit cards, right? I don't think they will get credit cards. AIs are not going to have bank accounts, right? It'll be your bank account that you delegate access to. The only thing the AI can really have is a Bitcoin wallet and maybe stable coins.
Mm-hmm.
The speed and size of the transaction doesn't matter. If you could have some digital bank account or digital account, you can have small accounts, small transactions too. But it's the fact that Bitcoin is permissionless that's what they'll use, because that's the only thing they can use.
So it's just a bonus. It's not made for AI. It just happens to be perfect for AI.
Yes. but everyone has to spin it somehow with a new narrative. So they say, "Oh, crypto's for AI." It's just a new angle that people are spinning, just like the world computer or something else. But usually, the reality is simpler than that.
I don't know. What's the best way to describe it? You talk about Bitcoin all the time.
There's no simple.
It's hard.
There's no simple one-shot answer. Like, I give you two statements.
Okay.
Bitcoin is digital gold, which means it is an asset that doesn't have a physical form. The second one I would say is Bitcoin is information, because it's just information. Just like, why can I have no counterparty risk? Because it's just information I send around the world, right? I don't need a counterparty to store information. It's just ones and zeros. So I think there's no one statement that encapsulates Bitcoin, but you can take these two and you can get pretty far with these two in terms of what it means and the impact on the world.
So if I really want to help you with this nation state adoption, what could I do?
I think what you're doing now, just educate people about Bitcoin and build a community. And if you have connections, engage with the government. We're happy to help too, but you can also engage without us. Like, we go where we're called and people ask for our help because we're sort of an expert group, right? And we can speak to our experience. We can speak to what other countries are doing, but you don't need us. You can do it fine on your own, but we're happy to help wherever we can help.
So does it have to be lawmakers or companies, or is it just nation?
For us, we're focused on nations, so it would be lawmakers and politicians, but companies too are good. Like, every segment has a role to play, from the individual to a company to a country.
I love what you're doing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
你知道吗？可以多多善用我们资讯栏官方 Line@ 的资源，因为里面有专人1对1回答币圈相关的问题，而且还有新手专属的7日陪跑课程，教会你所有币圈的基本功。官方的 Line@ 点进去，7日新手陪跑课程，填写课程的申请表单，限时报名当中。另外呢，我们也配合打击诈骗的这个反诈咨询。如果你或者是身边的人可能疑似遇到诈骗这里就会有专人帮你判断，协助你通报警察。当然啦，群里呢也有很多的福利可以领取，详细资讯呢都在资讯栏，好好利用。我们在币圈继续努力，下一次见，拜拜。